Well, that was the first headline. Our second headline is education. That's a very important file. And as the new academic year starts, we find that the challenges of COVID are still there. However, we have now more innovative ideas that would help us to fight COVID, and also through more introducing new learning systems, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. Well, everyone expects when you hear new ideas to talk about online, and that's been around for 6 months, 8 months now since the pandemic started. But I think that a very important new idea for the new school year is to watch out for the well-being of both teachers and the students. We've all been greatly impacted by this COVID. Some of us don't even realize the effect of the quarantine and the lockdown and all this new vocabulary that's impacting our lives every day, social distancing, hugging, not hugging, and all those measures that are that form a new present. And therefore the school is now facing a new beginning, a new school year with a bit of uncertainty. We don't know how long this pandemic is going to be around for. We don't know what impact it's going to have on our students learning, our teachers teaching. We need to take the school as a whole and think about how this new year is going to affect us all, basically. And the parents, of course. I forgot to mention the parents, but the school has implicitly an effect on parents.
Definitely it is, and also concerning education financing, because it's very costly.
Of course it is.
At the same time, with the introduction of those new trends, still we need financing those trends.
Of course. I have to say that there are lots and lots of online platforms, some of them costlier than others, but there are also many materials online accessible, and they are free. And we need to concentrate on those as well, especially in those schools and areas of our country and the population where maybe internet is not that accessible, where children or schools cannot really afford all these platforms. And even if they had them, maybe kids would not have internet or all these digital devices to access those platforms. So there are lots of free tools online that we can benefit from. We can just download them. We can give these children some kind of paper-based learning while they're not at school. I know that many schools have adopted a hybrid kind of learning. They feel a little more comfortable. They think that maybe like that they can keep everyone healthy, because that's basically the fear as well as the main objective. Let's keep our children healthy. So if they don't come to school every day, maybe that will help us all a little bit to not hear the scary news. Ooh, there's a COVID case in our school. So there are possibilities to do things cheaper and for free. We just need to look for them, but they exist.
Accelerating new moods and new modes also in teaching and in education. The existence of COVID has also derived this sense of intention of change in the way we teach.
Yes.
And also it's reciprocal, the way the students are receiving information.
Yes. I always say that what we need to do is look after the teachers, because the teachers will look after our children. So we need to, apart from providing them with all the support they need in terms of how to teach stuff, with the materials and on the online programs that they need to master by now to know how to tackle with their teaching, to teach our children, we need to watch out for their well-being. We need to teach them, we need to prepare them on how to understand that if they're okay, then the children will be okay. They need to learn how to take care of themselves. Of course, the school needs to foster an environment of care and trust. The teachers need to know that if something happens to them, if they're not feeling well, there is understanding. It's scarier these days to think about, I'm not feeling well, than it used to be. It's not taken as easily as it used to be. So teachers need to have this ongoing support from the school, and the school needs to know how to have all the measures in place to deal with such situations. I strongly recommend some kind of employee assistance program. It doesn't have to be per school. It can be done from the Ministry of Education or from other people that are interested to watch out for the well-being of the teachers and the students. I know of companies that have this. I know of educational institutions that have that. If a teacher feels unwell, not only physically, but let's say mentally, burned out or overwhelmed because of the situation, afraid. I mean, teachers can come with all this, there's a lot of information, and yes, they have to go to work, it's their job, but they might feel afraid to work. Who helps me not get all this COVID and stuff? And basically we need to have a place where they feel safe to go and talk. And because if they looked after well, they will look after very well after our children. And this is the most important thing, to give them support, because their support will reflect into their teaching, and therefore our children will be well looked after.
Yes. Preparing our students and the teachers as well, both need a sense of preparedness.
Yes.
Because definitely the ways of preparedness before COVID differ from after COVID challenges. So what's your input on that, Schneider?
For me, I've come today with quite practical ideas on how to prepare. I think that because we talk about everyone's well-being, my first question was, how do we ensure that our students, let's say if I were a teacher, that my students are okay today to be here in class. And there are so many activities that are very easy, free to do. And for example, you can start with something that you can put on the class walls at the beginning of the lesson, where for example, colors that represent different moods. And for example, red for I'm angry, yellow for I'm happy, blue for I'm tired, and green for I'm bored, for example, or maybe bored it would be brown. And virtually just ask the students before they start the class. It's a game, it's a fun game.
Yeah.
How are you feeling today? We usually ask this question at the beginning. How are you today, everyone? Yeah. But instead of doing that, ask them to touch one of these colors according to how they feel. And then you can identify if there's a problem, yeah? And you can already discover how to deal with different students. And if somebody says, I'm tired all the time, you need to maybe figure out why that person is tired. Maybe we could say, I'm feeling sick, or I'm afraid. We could include that. There's another practical activity for teachers, for parents, and for students. We can just adapt for different ages. And it's like an emotional awareness thread. And basically, you have a thread with different circles, and people need to tick if they feel like doing anything like that today. For example, we have active. Do you feel like moving? Do you feel like doing something nicely?
So sharing and caring.
Sharing and caring. Then the next one would be nutrition. Are you hungry? Have you had enough food? Especially for children who come from certain environments, we might need to look after that. Are they fed well? Are they fed properly today?
We'll talk about food, because you know, food and the choice and the selection
of course,
the ingredients of our food is very much co-relevant to quality education.
The next one would be like contact. Are the children happy? No, the children are now taught, don't touch, make sure you keep the distance, you can only play in this perimeter, keep your mask on or no mask, but make sure, you wash again, we need to wash again, sanitize. So it's all this like, can I touch my friend? Can I, contacts. Are you okay with your friends?
And we'll talk also about pros and cons of that. Because definitely it has pros and cons.
Exactly.
Well, as we start the new academic year, the education ministry in Egypt, as well as what is happening in the whole world, are definitely preparing both teachers and preparing the students as well for the new year. Hope it goes smooth, but still amid COVID challenges. Let's watch.
The Ministry of Education has defined the requirements for the closure of classes and schools, whether in complexes, villages or governorates, due to the spread of coronavirus among students in the new school year. A document released by the Ministry of Education revealed that a class will be closed for 28 days in the case that more than one student tests positive for coronavirus in a period of 2 weeks. Also, a school will be closed for 28 days in the case 2 or more classes in the school are closed due to the spread of COVID-19. A school complex will also be shut down for the same period in case one of its schools is closed and then a class of another school in the same complex is closed. Schools in a village or city can be closed on orders of the governorate in the event of quarantining this village or city and until the period of quarantine is over. Documents said that schools in a governorate may also be closed based on recommendations by the Crisis Management Committee for at least 28 days if required, adding that such decisions apply to governmental, private, international and other schools. Egypt's 23 million school students are scheduled to begin a new academic year 17th of October. The ministry has prepared a plan to allow schools closed since March in the wake of the pandemic to reopen safely, including deploying remote learning and decreasing attendance days. On September 8th, Minister of Education Tariq Shawi announced that the 2 days per week rule for attendance will apply to students from kindergarten to grade 3, from grade 4 to 6 and grades 7 to 9. Grades 10 to 12 will, wherever it is possible, be schooled mostly online. Egypt has so far reported 103,575 coronavirus cases and 5,970 deaths, with a relatively low number of daily cases over the past 2 months. The pandemic forced the country to close schools and universities for the last semester and replace exams in many subjects with online research work for the final grades.
We're still discussing the file of education amidst the challenges of COVID-19. We talked financing of the different trends because it's costly, and we talked about new trends also applied worldwide. Talking about the well-being is a very important topic in co-relevance to education and the preparedness of the students for the new year. For mothers also, we have a piece of advice here, what to put in their lunchbox, what to not put that would make, for instance, her kids more hyper if they are at school, what makes them like on alert to receive information. So the ingredients of our food is like magic for our reception of info, isn't it?
Yes, it is. They say we are what we eat, right?
Exactly.
And I think the mothers are the most important because they know their children very well. And they know if their children need a little bit of something to make them more active or the opposite, to make them calmer. It's very important to coordinate with the school to know exactly their timetable, because it's very important which is their first class, for example. Is it a class like maths where they need to concentrate, or do they start with PE or music? So and maybe it's
you weigh the balance.
Exactly, it's a bit of a science there. But yes, this is how I do it, for example, because I'm a mother as well. I am very aware of my child's timetable, and I try to help him adequately. For example, sometimes the PE is towards the end of the day, and I know that that's when he needs more energy because of all the hard work he's put during the day, and then he needs all the running and he needs to exercise, so then the lunch needs to be a little more consistent, for example. And he would ask me, mothers are extremely important in this aspect.
Yes, definitely. Well, talking about the effect of coronavirus beyond education, it has affected the economy, affected, everybody. So in co-relevance to education and investment in education, how do you see that? Are we in educational trends like before? Definitely no, because we're talking about distance learning. We are introducing today new terms in our lives education-wise. We are depending more online, and more terms that has been introduced. What are those terms and their application, and what are their pros and cons?
Well, let's say it's difficult times because we don't know how long this is going to be for. And then what school principals have on their hands is a plan for something that you don't know how it's going to unfold. And this is extremely difficult. So the principals need to concentrate on teaching and learning. So it's a big subject, but let's say when it comes to learning, I would concentrate especially on the main subjects. Kids have not been in school for a long time, for a few months now. Some of them have had the possibility to learn online, some of them haven't. So the most important thing is, now that the school's starting, to make sure that there isn't a gap in their learning, their formation. Because of all these months, we can't just pretend that, for example, the kids were in year 5, now they're year 6, and then it's all hunky-dory. It's going to be, we need to bring them up to date to all these times they have missed. So this is academically. Then on the other side, we need to look for everybody's well-being, like we spoke at the beginning. And on the other side, we need to make sure that in case, like we saw in the video, in case there is a COVID case in school, and like we saw, the government is expecting the school for close for 28 days, if I understood correctly. That means that we need to have already all the mechanisms prepared, all the mechanisms in place to switch immediately to an online, effective online learning and teaching. And what that means is, first of all, we need to have clear communication. How am I going to tell the parents to calm down? Yes, there is a COVID case, but that's not the end of the world, and this is how we're going to do things. So the communication channels need to be very clear from now to the parents, to the teachers, and to everybody. How am I going to communicate with them? After that, do I have a digital platform that people know how to use? If not, can I, for example, from now, maybe start giving them homework online? Not because we can't give them on paper, because now the school is open.
But to train them.
Exactly, to familiarize them with the system. So when everybody goes, okay, from next week we're online.
So that when we are going to switch anytime, then everybody is prepared.
Yes. Create an online routine. If we remember at the very beginning of the pandemic, when everybody was like, you need to stay at home and we'll continue online, parents were desperate for a routine. What am I going to do? Okay, I'm studying with my child for 1 hour, maths. But what next? Am I going to babysit? So can we create an online routine? Tell the parents, like you have a timetable at school. They were desperate. Our research showed that parents were desperate for a routine. What to do? How to fill in the time, because usually kids are at school for 6-7 hours. Now they're at home and they're studying, but they were not going to sit on the chair
and
for
at the same time they get bored.
Exactly.
So we have to know how are we going to fill in this time, and at the same time help them out. I mean, to do something that they like to do.
Exactly.
And that would be having an impact that would reflect.
Yes, and we talked in our previous discussion about a learning corner. Where are they going to learn, especially when you have a few kids with brothers and sisters? Timing, you might not have a computer for every single child. How they're going to share it? So all this needs to be prepared now when things are still going well. And then the other thing is, teachers, do they know how to teach online? And by then I mean, teaching online is not the same as face-to-face. Are they going to be able to switch to online? Do they know where and what activities to access? Do they know that they exist? And what type of activities? So the training now should be like, Okay, everybody, I would like you to go and find me something in the room that starts with letter B. Or can somebody ask or introduce us to your family or present? So what, it's different. Online it's different. And this is the time to train for such times.
Yes.
And hopefully we'll be prepared if such. I would just like to hope that we'll just go through the next few months without any cases, and everybody, that would be amazing.
That would
But
be
just in
amazing,
case.
hopefully, yes, definitely. And also take some time to talk to them about the role models, and to talk to them about inspiring characters in our lives. How about that? You know, in education, we always need to talk to our students and our kids about inspiring models.
Yes, yeah. I think that we can start with people that are dealing with the COVID cases. We can introduce them to this organization. Kids are at home, they watch TV, or even if they're playing in the house and the news is on, they're hearing, they know what's happening. Yeah. So let's just start by that. Talk to about these people, about this point,
scientists who are also engaged in more than one process, you know.
Exactly, scientists trying to discover
discoveries.
Doctors in the front line, nurses that are trying to combat this virus. The importance of such jobs and how amazing they are. Yes. And how if we do our part, like washing and keeping distance, and maybe, you know, somehow we'll get through this pandemic all better and healthier.
Sure, definitely. And definitely our role models remain very inspiring, you know, and talking to our kids and our children about those role models. Well, here on Nile TV International, we had all the honor to interview exclusively for Nile TV one of those role models. He's our iconic Egyptian scientist, Dr. Farouk El-Baz. Dr. El-Baz and his research, and as I said, as an iconic figure, had helped reach the moon and also deliver on information that has not been known to the world before. So he has and is still making headlines. Let's see.
The King. That's what they call him at NASA. A newly discovered asteroid is named after him. Egyptian scientist Farouk El-Baz. A worldwide famed geologist who played a key role in Apollo 2 moon landing mission. El-Baz narrates his inspirational story of success on exclusive with Taghreed Hussein. Only on Nile TV International.
The full exclusive with iconic Egyptian scientist Dr. Farouk El-Baz on Nile TV International, exclusively on Monday at 10 p.m. Cairo local time, right after the top stories. Schneider, as we were talking, that it's very important that in our lives we would have role models, we would have inspiring characters, we would have those characters. It could be teachers, scientists like Dr. El-Baz, those characters who inspire kids, whom they would say, I would like to be like Farouk El-Baz, for instance, like Ahmed Zouel. You know, it is very interesting to have a role model in our lives. So,
absolutely.
Talking role models, and especially that during the time of COVID, we had time and we spent plenty of time with our kids to talk to them about those inspiring characters. How can we make that quite interesting and catchy while we are narrating their stories of success, in your opinion?
So as a teacher, you know, I already have a lesson for that. For example, we can start by obviously introducing them to the person, explaining a little bit what
about
this person has done, and then they can make a video themselves impersonating that person. So they could be a scientist. So for example, we talk about doctors, especially doctors and nurses, they're very aware, of course, because it's all to do with health. So we can talk about what would you do if you were a doctor or a nurse in hospital, and then they have these costumes which don't need to be scary. They can be fancy, right? Because astronauts wear such costumes as well. So we can make a little bit fun and less scary and help them understand how important these people are for us. And then you have a video, you shoot a video of your child telling people, for example, how to keep social distancing and how important it is to wash your hands, or how that person would like to be a scientist and how he's now working to try to prepare vaccines. So the people are going to, so people in the world are going to be healthy again and keep safe, you know. So fun things like this, easy, doesn't have to be something very sophisticated, yeah, but yeah, and make sure you have men and women, and make sure scientists and teachers and nurses, make sure gender is represented.
Yes, it is very important also to have faith in our potential.
Absolutely.
And to work on our strong points. And also to introduce, while introducing those figures like Dr. Elbaz and other iconic figures, it's very important for the kids and the students to know that it didn't come easy for those people. And it was through a sense of will and perseverance that they were able to achieve that story of success. So working on that, and how can we incite the students and the kids to have a dream and to follow their dreams?
I'm just thinking that since it's difficult to have an interview with amazing scientists because they're so busy, or doctors or like that, we can look into the pool of our parents, and we might have a parent who would like to come to the classroom and talk to the children about what it took this parent to reach the job
Whatever,
he has.
yeah.
Exactly. And then the kids are going to share that experience and can ask questions, direct questions. Of course, if it were possible to interview a scientist, that would be absolutely amazing, or a doctor or a nurse, but we might have parents who are just that. So we could just start with that, easy, and allow children to ask questions and find out for themselves. And by awakening their interest, their curiosity widens, and they're gonna think that's really cool, and they're gonna want to pursue exactly that particular job. And you know, we might discover the next scientist just now.
Yeah, in the Egyptian educational system now, we are not at all depending on memorizing, because this is something of the past, but we are depending on having creative students around. We're depending on the fact that they would do projects by themselves. Working in a team is definitely a plus. How to provide quality education, and also how to provide students for today who are capable to compete in the labor market, and also to be quite aware of what is happening.
Yeah, so when we teach our students, we need to allow as much space for creativity as possible, and research is a big tool. They have access, we just need to guide them. They have access to internet, they have access to electronic devices, and therefore they can carry out research for themselves. So talking about the previous question, maybe we could say research an amazing Egyptian scientist or amazing Egyptian doctor which has discovered so and so, and maybe find out what it took this person to get to his or her full potential. Yeah, that's one thing. Teamwork is amazing because kids learn to share, learn to listen, learn communication skills, and then leadership is of course another part of such project. A child is in charge of a project, is in charge of a team, can develop roles for each person, can take responsibility for the project. So research, communication, teamwork is the future, absolutely.
Yes, definitely. We're working for the future. We're working for engaging our students and the kids for in future projects, working for tomorrow. It's very important. In the upcoming report, we'll see how the whole world had already prepared itself for the new academic year. Let's watch.
Many countries are moving forward with reopening as debates unfold about how to weigh disruptions to a child's education and the cost of childcare for those returning to work against health risks. Some nations have reopened their schools already, citing evidence that their outbreaks are under control. Many have issued new safety requirements. At the epicenter of the initial outbreak in Wuhan, China, schools reopened in early May, but children had to pass through temperature checks, wear masks, and enter and leave at specific times to avoid crowding. Denmark closes schools on March 11th. Just a month later, it became the first country in Europe to reopen them. In Sweden, classes continued uninterrupted for children under the age of 16. In many nations, the vast majority of students are expected to be back for in-person classes when the new school year begins in late summer. Belgium, Britain, France and Italy are all pushing for plans to reopen schools widely in September. Germany's Federal Education Ministries reached an agreement in June that should see students return for the new school year, with a required 5-foot minimum distance between students and classrooms. Most of these nations are not seeing a surge in cases like the United States is, but Russia, which has the 4th largest number of cases in the world, announced on June 29th that schools in the country would open their doors on September 1st as usual. In India, home to the 3rd largest number of coronavirus cases in the world, students are already back from their summer break, but schools remain closed. The spread of the novel coronavirus forced more than 1.5 billion students into hastily implemented experiments in learning from home, as schools around the world shut their doors.
Well, Shnada, if we are going to talk about the tools that you think we are going to resort on the most while we are approaching the new academic year that had already started, all over the world, what do you think would be the expectations?
For me, the most important is the tool, if I could say call it like that, of positive emotions. I think we're at a point in everybody's life worldwide when we're all connected. And I think we need to learn how to manifest gratitude. Gratitude for being healthy, gratitude to all the people that watch out for us, all these people that we talked about, people who are working extensively and without a break to try to fix this problem, to find a vaccine, to solve the world pandemic. Another positive attitude or positive emotion would be kindness. Mm-hmm. How to show kindness to other people who are less fortunate, less able to cope with this pandemic, to all those people that have been impacted financially, all those businesses that are suffering. Think about ways to maybe help them, cooperate with them. Mm-hmm. Another one is self-awareness in order to live a fulfilling life despite circumstances. So I would say how to manifest joy. Do you know how to live a fulfilling life despite the present circumstances?
Yes.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And I think another one is empathy. Empathy for people who are suffering, empathy for empathy with the school principals who are doing their best, empathy with the governments who are trying their best, and sometimes they succeed, sometimes there'll be less, but it's because it's such a new situation that nobody really knows how
to handle it.
Exactly, how to handle it. Sometimes the method works better than others. Mm-hmm. And then, so this is like, say, the spirituality of the moment, to speak. And of course, then we need to always make sure that...
And the togetherness, we are all working together.
We are. And this is one of those situations when there isn't any country in the world that hasn't been affected, and the uniqueness and the togetherness of the situation, exactly like you're saying, it's just so special. And I think we can get through this together and somehow become stronger and more aware of each other's existence. They're more aware of the fact that we're not so different. We're kind of very much the same, especially when something like this affects us all.
For the first time, I guess that the world is uniting in order to face one enemy.
Exactly, and when it comes to education, we're going through the same thing. And we just need to look at countries which have found better solutions than we have, for example, and to see what's working and what's not working so well, and just lead by the example.
Definitely leading by example. And I thank you so much, Ms. Senida Kiehl, International Educational Consultant, for joining Nile TV International. Always a pleasure having you and reading through your eyes the new educational trends worldwide today amidst the challenges of COVID. You always shine and stay healthy. Thank you so much, Senida.
Thank you so much. Always a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
And I thank you, dear viewers, for joining us. That was Thursday Debate. I'm Daghrit Hussein. Many thanks for watching.